Messiah.
Hi guys, and welcome to More Than a Woman. I am Keely Bent.
And I'm Abby.
And I'm Shamila.
And today's topic, we're going to be discussing colorism. Now, the definition of colorism is a prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a darker skin tone, typically amongst ethnicities of the same racial group. I think the first thing to discuss and talk about is, where do we feel like the origin of colorism started, and do we feel like it's an extension of racism?
Do you want to go first? Or?
No, I don't mind.
I think it stems from slavery. Only because I've heard like certain things happen. So like hearing of the history of slavery, like you know, the light skinned man was treated better than the dark skinned man, and slave masters used to rape the dark skinned man in front of their wives to make them seem a bit less masculine and so on. And even with the women as well, they'll treat the light skinned women better, shall I say?
Yeah. More privileged.
Yeah,
I'd say it stemmed from colonialism. So like even like the Windrush era, you know, like you know, when black people were coming over into England to start work and stuff like that. I'm guessing because of the unknown within Britain itself, because it was unknown to have like black people amongst them living in within their society. I guess that's where colorism would come from, because obviously they'd be like, well, we've never seen dark people before, or we've never lived amongst dark people before, and I guess they feel like they can relate more to someone who's probably black but of a lighter skin colour, not realising that they still have the same cultural similarities.
I would think maybe they was treated slightly better because they was the product of raping the black woman. So for example, maybe they would have got slightly better treatment because that's their actual son or that's their actual daughter. So even though it still wouldn't have been good enough treatment that you would treat your own flesh and blood, the reason that they was treated better was because if we're talking about being treated better on a plantation, then it was actually their children, mixed race.
Yeah, that's true.
Possibly. Well, I do think that's definitely one of the reasons, but not the only reason.
So what about those people who are fair skinned but have dark skinned parents?
Well, that's what I was just about to say. That's why I turned around and said maybe only one of the reasons, because obviously you have black people have a range of different shades. So but I do definitely feel like that is one of the reasons, because they do feel like, because remember, you know, the slave master didn't only just start raping men and women when they got to the destination countries. They was already raping them and abusing them in Africa already before they even got here. So you know,
I think that's what people forget as well. Like the Africans used to sell their own as well. So like sometimes you need to think like, what happened then? Then, you know, was there different treatments then? You know what I mean? Like in Africa, was it different treatment? You know, did they treat, you know, a fair skinned African different to a dark skinned African? You know, and these are the questions that need to be answered in terms of.
I think one of the things that we do by default is we talk about Africa as a whole
and not individually,
because, for example, sometimes when I go to Ghana and I go to, like, if I go in the villages of Ghana, they've never seen a light-skinned black person before. You're either dark, black, or you're white. There's no in between. You could be Chinese, you're white. You could be Indian, you're white. If you don't look at the same skin complexion as them, you're white. Whereas if you go to places in Nigeria, you have whole tribes that are light skinned. So I think it depends on whereabouts in Africa that you come from. But because we're over here, we tend to talk about a whole continent as a whole country. It's not. It's like we kind of talk about it like it's Britain.
I think like the problem is we don't actually know where it stems from. So it's kind of like there's certain things where we think it stems from, but we don't actually know. But like there are, like you see in day to day, life, really. You know, some people will get treated better just because they have lighter skin, and I feel like sometimes now, like, darker skin is becoming like a kind of trend, because like a few years ago people never used to be like, oh, nice chocolate, beautiful woman or whatever. Like, it's like, I feel like it's more of a fetish now. Not even more of a fetish, because I feel like black skin in general has been a fetish to a lot of people, but yeah, I feel like dark skin in general now is becoming more of a trend, just because people have been called out for like colorism. So it's like the kind of thing, okay, I need to treat darker skin people better or so on. But I feel like there's a difference between treating darker skinned women and darker skinned men, because for example, I feel like when it comes to dating, shall I say, you'll hear a lot of people say, oh yeah, I prefer dark men, but then when it comes to dating women, it's like, yeah, I prefer a light skinned woman. So I think there's a difference between how people treat darker skinned men and women.
It's kind of like we're doubly oppressed because we're women and we're dark skinned.
I don't know, I feel like
so we're doubly deviant.
I feel like I feel like I've heard a fair amount in terms of men. I feel like I've heard plenty of women say, I like lighter skinned men.
Yeah,
I prefer lighter skinned men. But then I've also heard a lot of women say that I prefer darker skinned men. I might have and I might not have paid attention to it, but I can't really recollect and turn around and say that I've heard women say that they prefer like the balance. I feel like the balance, I might start trying to pay attention more to it now. But I can't. But whereas women, there was a whole era where everybody was on this light skin women thing. But then at the same time, in my household where I grew up, I was the only light skin. I was the lightest of my family, so I always was raised around black is beautiful. And then my grandma's black, my mum's black, my aunties are black, like then there's me. There's me lighter, my brother, we've got the same mum and dad, he's darker than me, so I'm the lightest one. And I don't feel like I really experienced colorism as a lighter woman until I moved to Birmingham around the age of 25. Like, I was told about it, but I didn't necessarily experience it until I came here.
Okay, so what was your experience though?
I've noticed that, like, there was people that I've never met before. If I was in Sheffield, because that's where I come from, if someone doesn't like you in Sheffield, there could be numerous reasons. It could be because they don't like your friend and they've grouped you as a specific kind of person, or you've done something to somebody and you don't necessarily know. Like, you could pick out a whole bunch of reasons, but when you've come to a city where you don't know anybody, and then you're starting to notice, like, it's always darker skinned women that are scowling at you for no reason, and you're thinking, but I don't know you from anywhere. And at that moment, I didn't think it was because I was light skinned, because, like I said, the whole of my family was darker than me, so I never really processed the thought that I was light skinned anyway, until people in Birmingham kept pointing out that I was light skinned, and then that's when I realised, okay, then this is not the only issue, but this is mostly the reason why I'm getting a certain kind of treatment, and I haven't even done nothing to nobody yet. So
but on the flip side of that, have you ever experienced like people being or behaving nice, or you being privileged because of your skin colour?
Probably. And I probably at that moment in time never recognised it. But then being more educated and being more aware of certain things, then I can probably turn around and say, yeah, probably what it was. My thing is, being light skinned, we do definitely receive privilege, whether we are knowingly aware of it or not, because nobody wants to feel like, oh, I only got that job because I'm light skinned, or because I only got this because I'm light skinned. But I do feel like we do owe it to our people and our community, where if we are given opportunities, it depends on what we do with it. So if we if we receive a privilege and we'll just be selfish with it, then it's an issue. But I feel like if we do something and take it and run with it and do something to better our communities with it, then
it can work.
Then it can work. Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, what are your preference in the skin complexions in dating, and what do you think the reasons is why, since you brought it up?
You know what? To be fair, as long as they're black for me, like I actually don't mind. Like I don't have a preference in skin tone, like whether they're light or darker. But like I was raised like, you know, black is beautiful, as you said. Love yourself, you know, don't change for nobody. So yeah, like me as a person, like as long as you're black, I don't have a problem. Do you know what I mean? I don't have a preference in skin tone, so yeah.
So do you feel like, because you're saying you don't have a preference, do you feel like you've dated a range of complexions? Or has there been one that you've been attracted to more than the other?
Oh, do you mean like skin?
Yeah.
As in black skin tone?
Yeah.
To be fair, there has been it's kind of been half and half. Like there've been brown skin and dark skin, but there haven't been light skin. But yeah, I wouldn't really say that there's really a difference for me. It's kind of like I'm just attracted to what I'm attracted to. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
About you, Abs?
Me, I don't really have a preference. Like when I was younger, I dated a white guy. It was different.
Yeah.
I'd say the only difference is just a cultural clash, but apart from that, I think that's something minute that you can get over if you're open-minded.
Yeah.
So to me, it's down to the person, the individual. If you know, if you're open to accept me for who I am, then I'm open to accept you for who you are, and that's just it.
Yeah.
So do you think culture, because you said a minor,
it is a minor thing to get over, though. That's what I mean. If you're open-minded and you're willing, it's like, okay, someone being Muslim. Now, in the Muslim community, they're not really going to accept anyone that isn't Muslim. But if you're willing to revert, then they'll kind of be like, okay, then we'll kind of let you in. And that's kind of how I look at it. If you're willing to learn my culture and embrace my culture, then I'm willing to accept you into it as well, because I'm willing to do the same for you. Do you know what I mean? That's what I mean. If you're open-minded, I'm not saying it's a minute thing. It is a big thing, because that's where culture clashes come into it. But if you're open-minded, then I think it's an easy thing to get over.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm black all the way.
She just ain't found the right white man. That's all it is.
I ain't looking for the right man
It's so calm, don't worry.
I'm not looking for the right man either.
Yeah, you see it there. So you could go to South Africa next.
Yeah, even if I did, he would still be, you know, a black South African. But anyway, I would say normally my preference is darker skin, but I have dated brown skin and lighter skin. So I would say that I do prefer dark skinned men, but I don't rule other complexions out.
Yeah.
But why would you rule out a white guy though? I don't get it. Or an Asian, or a.
I don't think that's the case. You know, I think it's more the fact that like me personally, like I'm so strong and like, okay, you're beautiful as you are, like your skin tone, your skin colour, and I feel like it's more than just being black. Do you know, like even your hair, like who else has hair like us? Do you know what I mean? It's not the fact that I don't find them attractive, because even when I was growing up in school, like I'd find people from other races like attractive, but I think it's just the way how I was raised. It's kind of like everything's just black for me kind of thing. But it's not the fact that like, oh, I don't want you kind of thing. It's just like, that's what I like. And I want my kids to look like me. Do you know what I mean? So like they can grow up knowing that, okay, I look like my mum and dad. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, what you said though could come over quite racist or prejudiced though.
I can't be racist, I'm black. The proper definition, not the updated 2020 version of racism.
But then the thing is as well, I think it's, let's say it was the other side, and you said, okay, I don't want my kids to look like me. what would that sound like? Do you know what I mean?
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I kind of don't understand how it can seem racist or prejudiced if you want your own kids to look like you, because it's like, I love myself kind of thing.
I think we're the only race, to be fair, that actually starts considering, like I don't see any Asian person that they like to keep their bloodline going, their race going. They don't.
And there's no problem.
Nobody outside can question them as to, oh, you sound racist, or how comes you don't date outside this and how you don't date outside that. But we're forever trying to explain ourselves after we've been through decades of trauma, you know, from a particular race. Like, I don't have nothing.
Yeah, but what's that got to do with the individual?
It has. I'm the individual. That
No,
has something to do
no.
with
What
me.
I mean is, in terms of like the bigger picture. Okay, so
It is
yeah,
the bigger
you talk
picture.
about race and whatever, but
It is the bigger picture.
You're talking about but you're talking about race.
Yeah.
But I'm saying to you, what's that got to do with an individual? Just because an individual is white doesn't mean that
because the individual makes a collective.
That don't mean he takes on that same moral compass.
But let me just tell you something about white people. White people will sit down and turn around and say, not just white people, by the way, but since we're talking about white people will turn around and say, oh, I think this is wrong, and I agree, like this whole Black Lives Matter thing. Yeah, because we can, through experience.
Yeah.
So they turn around and say, Black Lives Matter and XYZ, but I don't see that many white people on the front line with us when things go down. I don't see white people's blood, getting splattered all over the whatever. So you can turn around and give all the talk, but as far as I'm concerned, when it comes down to the action, then whatever you're saying is
yeah, but you're tarnishing everyone with the same brush. Where
that's fine by me.
There always will be a minority group in it that will stand for us.
I haven't got time to start saying. I haven't got time. Let me give you an example. Look how many leaves a bush has. I haven't got time to go for a bush to find an okay leaf.
That's absolutely fine, but still don't tarnish everyone with the same.
But I will. But you can't tell me not to do that.
No, I'm not telling you not to do it.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's how.
I'm not telling you not to do it. Yeah, I'm just stating my opinion.
But that's how I feel. So
that's fine. I can't take away.
You can have your opinion, but obviously how I feel and my experiences of what I've been through as a black woman.
That's fine.
Then you can't tell me how I should feel.
I'm not telling you how you feel.
No, but the way how you said.
No, it's not how I said it.
It was how you said it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have took the perspective. Otherwise, I wouldn't have took that perception of what you said. You said you can't target everyone with the same brush. But if I'm saying I'm not sexually attractive, or you ask me what my preference is and how comes I'm not attracted to XYZ. So because of the trauma and experience of what we've had with a particular race, that's how I feel about this group of people.
Okay.
We've been in England, where we are the minority, where we are surrounded by predominantly white people every single day, to have a black woman or black male, black person's experience around these people every single day, which molds my perception of these people because of how I have been and how my people have been treated. So if that then makes me feel like...
I shouldn't have said I, and I should have said, should have made it collectively then. We can't tarnish everyone with the same. I can't talk about your experience. I can't say
but we're tarnished with the same brush.
I can't say how you.
But we're treated because of how we are treated because of being black. We are treated because we're being black.
You can't tarnish everyone with the same brush.
Yeah, but we can. Well, I can.
But
because of my experience.
That's your prerogative.
Okay, then we're good. Then we're okay. So. we're okay. We're okay off camera after this. We will be fine.
I don't know about that, to be honest.
I think it's just the thing. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, me personally, like when I tell people, like, okay, I like to date just black only. I feel like some people find it a problem, and I think that's the thing where I'm like, okay, why is it a problem if I want to date my own?
When white people turn around and say they just want to date white people, like why people? No one's in their feelings. When Asian people say they just want to date Asian people, nobody questions. I will. But this is what I'm saying. But what I was saying before this is we are the only race that questions But why? But nobody else is questioning why Asians only like Asians and why majority white people only like white people. No one questions that. But when we turn around and we have this conversation about then we start trying to throw in all these other ethnicities and talk about why can't we be accepting of X, Y, Z? Why can't we learn to be accepting of our own first before we start adding in other people?
If you notice what I said at the beginning, I said that's what it is. We want amongst the Muslim community. They won't accept whether you're black, white, indifferent. If you're not Muslim and you can't talk their lingo, they're not going to accept you.
But then there's a problem within that,
culture.
because then you have to change your whole self, your whole culture and identity to become a part of somebody else's for them to accept you. I can't change myself to be a white person for you to accept me.
No one's expecting you to do that.
No, but you gave the example, so like you gave the example, so I'm just using the example that you gave.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if you're
but I'm using your own example. You gave me the example of that. Like if you become a Muslim, you can't become a white person to be accepted into the white community. You can't become an Asian person to be accepted into the Asian community. You're black. So my thing is, I think we need to be more accepting of our own millions of shades that we have, you know, before we start inviting outsiders in, because that's the reason why we're in predicaments today, as far as I am concerned.
Yeah, but for years we've been letting outsiders in.
Exactly, that's
why we've got mixed race in our family. We've even got some white in our family. Yeah, you know, no one's 110% black. Yeah,
but then that's the thing, though. So but with all this mixing, then there's a whole heap of problems too. It will continue
because of the westernized society that we live in. Mixing.
Let me just turn around and say something. You know, when you turn around and you said like you don't mind dating outside of your race and blah and XYZ. I don't want to say blah 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 because that was rude. That was just a natural thing. But you said, you know, you don't mind dating outside of your race XYZ. I never questioned you and said and why and how comes you can't.
And that's your prerogative.
No, but I didn't want to because that's your thing. But then I didn't need to because that's your thing. The same way how I feel like people should be more respectful of when I turn around and that's why I was turning around before and saying, no, I'm not saying that you are being disrespectful. I'm just saying, but like if I turn around and say I prefer mine, then that shouldn't be questioned either.
Okay.
So, okay. What do we feel about the negative connotations for darker skin?
I think there's always been negative connotations with darker skin. Just with, I just think there's always negative connotations because even when I was in school, people call you blick, black, gorilla, all sorts of names under the sun, and it's just like, okay, but no one will call anyone that's light skinned anything like that. It's always if you're dark, like, oh yeah, you're black like a tire, you like tar and so on. So I think like anything to do with darker skin or blackness always has a negative connotation for some reason.
I agree. I think when I was in a mixed school, there was racism all the time, and definitely the darker skinned got it more. But then even as a lighter skinned, we didn't get called black and white. To be fair, the common word, I never really heard look black. That went where we were from.
Oh yeah.
So that might be a Birmingham thing. But we just mostly just got called nigger straight across the board. Like it didn't matter what tone. But when I went to an all white school, because we had to move house, and then we moved to a different part of Sheffield, which was predominantly white. So the school that I went to was an all-white school, and let me tell you, I had to fight every single day. Yeah, like I was told that I need to go in the oven because I didn't stay in the oven enough, and I need to go and get a bit darker in the oven. I used to have to fight being at the bus stop outside of school. I used to get attacked by girls, like just walking like through the corridor and stuff like that all the time. So being in an all white school, like I was targeted all the time.
Was that in secondary school?
Yeah, that was in secondary school. But then when I was in a mixed school, we kind of just all got tarred under the same thing. And I just feel like when I was younger, there was this is why I turned around and said I didn't really experience colorism until I got older, because once she said something about one of us, we all just grouped together and just had a fight in the playground.
Okay.
But what do you think?
Yeah, I got negative experiences and stuff like that. But yeah, mine was a bit like you. Like, we just all used to just come together and just fight against it, really.
Yeah.
Like, we used to get the bad words and stuff.
You know, the only thing is, though, sorry to interrupt, the only thing is, I went to a mixed school, so, like, it was diverse, you know, loads of races. The only thing is, though, we would get called them names by our own. So, like, no white people or Asian people
would call you black or black or whatever.
It was always the black people that would say it to each other. And when I think of it now, it's like, why? Because even I used to throw it at some of my friends, but you know what? We never actually used to take it seriously. Like, me personally, when people used to say it to me, like, I'm still like, okay, whatever. Because like, I didn't really care like that.
Coming from your own race or coming from a different race?
Coming from anyone, to be fair. Because when I think of it now, if someone was to call me that, like, from my own race, I'd be like, rah, okay, is that how you feeling? Yeah, but if it was to come from a different race, I'd be like, okay, I feel like they would actually mean it. But I don't know, I think it depends on the person as well, because, like, as I said, like, in school, like, we used to say it to each other, but we would always laugh it off. There was this one boy that, like, he was darker than me, like, really dark skin, and the thing is, he always used to be called, like, negative names, like Blick, Blook, Gorilla, so on. And I think for him, it was a different experience because he would always be called it. Whereas for me, like, I wouldn't always be called it, but, like, I wouldn't take it to heart.
But where do you think these actual things came from? Where was they learned?
I don't know, because even me, like, I've never heard them.
Do you think you learnt it from
school? I would say.
From school and other friends, but then at some point, because they became kind of nicknames.
Yeah.
But because I've never heard a white person or an Asian person say Blick or Blook.
Yeah.
So then, do you feel like it potentially came from within the home?
Yeah, my grandma was a bit like that with my mixed race side.
Yeah, that's why I was moving on to that.
Very, like, you know, standoffish.
Because
one of the mixed race kids around her.
Yeah, that was leading on to my next question, like, to say, you know, I was going to talk about bleaching next, because obviously when you're children and you feel like it bounces off you, but then when you're constantly hearing negative things being thrown around about your skin complexion, do you feel like that's what leads to
it's just a learnt behaviour. It's not, I don't think it's something that's embedded, because I think as they get older, it kind of dies out. Yeah, the maybe name calling in the school, but I feel like also as black people kind of grow out of it, sort of thing. But then the white man now, even though he doesn't use words as like lick or block or anything like that, they'll use other words, you know what I mean, and they'll carry it on into the adult life, whereas we would kind of call our old names, but we don't. Once we get older, we kind of just falls off. Yeah.
So then, what do you think, like, the reasons are, like, for bleaching and stuff?
Well, that again is down to colonialism, innit? And because even with my nan as well, like, I could have easily embedded what she said as, all right then, stay away from mixed race people, don't go by mixed race people, this and that. But then on the flip side of thing, other people may be like, you know what, well, these people get treated a lot better, they've got nicer hair, you know, let me start bleaching. So when you start seeing things like that, the privileges that they get, that's what entices the bleaching, because they feel like with the light skin comes wealth, especially in Jamaica.
I'm actually quite curious about something. Even though we know light skinned people get light skin privilege, has anybody witnessed a bleached person get privilege?
Nah, you know, to be honest with you. However,
it just made me think, and that just randomly came into my head.
Even the media all the time, the comments about Beyonce used to be darker when she was in Destiny's Child, and that as she's got more famous, that her skin complex. I mean, I haven't really seen it, but I've heard people talk about it, and they say that she's done that. Same with Michael Jackson as well, even though he said he had a skin thing. They're saying, oh, he changed his colour because that's how he became like the king of pop, is because he wouldn't have had that high status if it wasn't for him changing his skin colour, basically.
I don't know about that one. You know when you have okay, with him, I feel like Michael Jackson. I feel like I think it's more of a personal thing for him. But you never know. But some people may take it personal and may think to themselves like, you know what, like if I become lighter, maybe I can get this far in life. Do you know what I mean?
Or I'll start getting picked on.
Exactly.
Or people will accept me more.
And as for some other people, they may not think that way because I feel like it has a lot to do with self-esteem as well. So if their self-esteem is like, you know, through the roof, they won't believe to themselves like, you know, if I become lighter, then I'll get this privilege or whatever. Like sometimes I think it's kind of like if you think to yourself like, okay, I don't know how to put it into words, like you know when some people think that they have to do something to become better, like obviously bleaching, but then it doesn't actually happen. Like obviously in Michael Jackson's case it did, kind of thing, like he's been famous, but I always wondered to myself like if he didn't do that and he still kind of stayed black,
because they were still kind of big, wasn't they, when they was like a group. And I feel like Michael Jackson like could have like got some of us to believe that it was a skin condition if he didn't change his hair and his nose, and then we just knew like there was a blatant lie after that. But other than Michael Jackson, I
don't know any regular person who's
because we know do you know people that you know?
I know people that have bleached. I know regular people that have bleached and they've made, you know,
I don't know
from that.
Has it actually made a difference in their life, bleaching?
I don't know anyone that's bleached, but from seeing people on, you know, Instagram or, you know, online, shall I say, like, it doesn't seem so.
Because I'm noticing, like, this trend at the moment as well, like, and I probably was a part of it, like, maybe, like, 10 years ago, where people used to laugh or tease people for bleaching, and then I kind of feel like it died down, or maybe I didn't pay attention to it. And then I feel like it's starting to pop up again where people are like tearing people down for bleaching. And even though I don't agree with bleaching, if we already know a person has low self-esteem and there's something wrong like with them emotionally, then why are we then still continuing to try and tear them down to make them feel worse, rather than, you know, giving them the love and support that they would possibly need to make them feel like they don't need to do it.
People wouldn't know, would they? Because the majority of people that do bleach, they're bossy. You know what I mean? They're bossy with it. You wouldn't even know that. That's how they're being affected. So yeah, I get what you're saying, because that would be down to the individual just being mindful of how they're treating others, basically. But 9 times out of 10, these bleaching people, they're bossy with it.
They are, but then there's a
reason.
Even
though the bleaching don't even look
But
good.
the thing is, they don't. But was they bossy before they started bleaching?
And that's the thing.
I think it depends where you
It's the same with Vybz Kartel. Vybz Kartel was bossy when he was dark, and he got bossier, if you ask me, when he got.
But then he stopped bleaching now, though.
Bleaching.
He stopped bleaching.
Yeah, that's because he's behind bars. He don't do that. They're not doing no bleaching ointment.
He can get cakes up if he wanted to behind bars. He could.
Because I actually know someone, and he said that when he was living in Jamaica, at one point, he used to bleach. I'm like, he used to bleach, like, but yeah, he said like it wasn't anything to do with self-esteem, because like anytime someone tells me they bleach, I'm like, what? So when he said he used to bleach, he said it was just a trend. So it's kind of like if it's a trend, they just do it. Because sometimes they do that a lot, especially in the Caribbean. So,
but the thing is, there's so many different trends and fashion going on at one time. Why pick that specific trend to follow when there's so many other things?
Exactly.
I feel like
probably what's portrayed to them, isn't it? Like you said, all this privilege thing in their head. They're thinking, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be successful."
I feel like as I didn't really pay much attention to adults bleaching as much. I just used to think, oh, like, that's stupid, why would you want to do that? But obviously being light skinned, I wouldn't properly understand the reason why they would want to do it. And I think when it hit me the most, and then I really started to think deeply about it, is when I went to Ghana and I started seeing children bleach. So when I was teaching in schools and I started seeing, you know, children turn up to class with bleached skin, bearing in mind they're not having, I don't feel like there is a proper product to bleach your skin with, but they're using cheaper products or God knows whatever it is that they're using, so it's not, they're literally like, their hands could be white. And
yeah, we can't be the kids though. That's got to be their parents.
No, but it could be. But some of them, it would be the parents. Some of them, it would be them. And I want to say, because it was mostly a trend for women or young girls to bleach, and now I'm actually starting to see young men bleach also, which is also like. It's been a massive eye opener for me.
Well, I feel like most behaviours are learned. So where have they learned that from? What is so good about bleaching that a child will?
Because when it comes to
the TV.
No,
that's what I think.
When you go to certain parts of villages in Ghana, they don't have a TV. They might not even have a phone. But what I do feel like that they do see foreigners coming to the country saying that they're coming to help and do X, Y, Z, and people that do mostly volunteering in Africa, unfortunately, is white people. And when white people come, they do see white people get the better treatment. They do see, men trying to be with the white women, because it's mostly white women that do volunteer. Yeah, they do see white women. I'm not saying there aren't white men that don't volunteer, because there are, but there's predominantly white women that mostly want to volunteer that are out there. And then I feel like because they're seeing the white people and the white women get treated better, then they want to do something to attract men or their own men to want to look after them and treat them how they see the other people being treated, other outsiders or foreigners being treated.
So just colonialism again, really.
Exactly.
That's basically it.
Yeah. So when I see it being played out, even though we know what happened in history, and some people turn around and say the past is the past and what does it have to do with this and that, but when you go to certain places and you can see it literally repeating itself in front of your eyes, it might not be in chains or being whipped and whatever, but you do see certain elements of it being played out, and that was because of what has happened in the past and what's happening now. So it's sad, but I think the next step after that would be, what can we do as a people to try and eradicate it? I don't think it'll ever be eradicated. No.
But you just have to teach your kids, teach your family members. It's all about teaching, educate and enable. That's the main point in anything that you do in life.
And like you were saying earlier on, you was like black dark skin has become a trend now.
Yeah. Who used to come up to you and say, "Oh yeah, you nice chocolate Nubian cream"? Like, what?
No one says. Yeah, no one says
really?
That.
Oh,
yeah, but everyone's like, "Oh yeah, you pretty lighty."
You know what I've been told before? I had this mixed race friend from my school, and she lives 5 minutes away from me, and I was walking. And then she was like, "Oh yeah, my brother said you're really nice, and you're pretty for a black girl, and because you're pretty for a black girl because he thinks black girls are ugly." And they're like, "What?" I didn't even say anything. I just thought, okay, whatever. Stupid. But it's when you get, "Oh, you're pretty for a black girl," and they're like, "So you trying to say black girls are ugly?"
Basically.
But it's those kind of comments, I just let it go over my head, because if I had low self-esteem, then it would be I would feel away, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people have their opinions, and it's just if they think that, then let them go on and think that, do you know what I mean? You can't. I'm not going to take my time out for you to try and see the beauty
where their opinions have come from. But on the flip side, people sometimes assume that lighter skinned people don't go through things. Yeah. And before, I've been told by a black man that I'm
too light or something.
No, he never said that I was too light. He said because I'm light skinned that I'm good enough to sleep with and have sex with, but I wasn't wifey material, because he assumed because I was light skinned that I couldn't cook.
What?
Do you know what I mean?
Okay, that's the first I've heard of that.
Yeah, and that was in Birmingham, by the way.
I've heard some people say, you're too light for me, and I'm there not to me, but I've heard of people say that to light skinned women, or even light skinned men as well, because some people see light skinned men as weak. And darker skinned men as aggressive and masculine, and it's where does this come from?
Well, I definitely feel like we've had some interesting conversations today, some heated conversations. But the most important thing is whether we agree or disagree with each other's opinions is that it's aired out, because at the end of the day, all of our voices deserve to be heard. So on that note, thank you for joining us, and bye from the More Than a Woman squad.
Thank you.
Bye.
More than a woman, yes I am. More than a woman, yes I am.